What if I told you that some of the most iconic songs of the 90s were almost never heard? We're talking tracks that got laughed out of radio stations, banned from MTV, buried by their own labels, or in one case, almost locked away in a drawer forever by the artist himself. Today we're counting down 10 songs that beat every single person who counted them out, and went on to define a decade. Stay until the end, because number one genuinely triggered a US Senate hearing. Let's get into it. When Smells Like Teen Spirit first landed on the desks of commercial radio DJs in 1991, the reaction wasn't "this is a hit." It was, "what is he even saying?" Program directors across the country were baffled by Kurt Cobain's slurred delivery and the wall of distorted noise. In fact, the industry pushback was so loud that some stations compared it to Louie Louie, the 60s track famous for being literally incomprehensible. There were even rumors that the label considered printing lyric sheets just so people could follow along. But while the gatekeepers were busy scratching their heads over the mumbling, the fans were busy turning it into a revolution. Turns out you didn't need to understand every word to feel exactly what the song was screaming. Imagine having one of the most iconic songs of the decade, only for your local radio station to tell you it's too depressing to play. That was the reality for Radiohead in 1992. When Creep first hit the UK airwaves, it was a total commercial disaster, limping to a pathetic number 78 on the charts. The gatekeepers at the BBC essentially wrote it off as too gloomy for the masses. But then, something strange happened. Halfway across the world in Israel, a single DJ fell in love with the track, sparking a fever that spread to the US and beyond. By the time the UK finally discovered the song a year later, it was already a global phenomenon. In 1995, Billy Corgan handed his label a sprawling 28-song double album and a lead single that began with the line, "The world is a vampire." The critics? They weren't all convinced. Early reviews for Bullet with Butterfly Wings were a mixed bag of awe and eye rolls, with some dismissive journalists calling it bloated and a self-important attempt at arena rock. Even the heavyweights at Rolling Stone were initially skeptical. One senior editor famously sat in the studio and told the band he just didn't get the song's abrasive sound. They called the angst theatrical and the production excessive. But while the critics were busy debating if Corgan was a genius or just dramatic, a whole generation of teenagers was busy making it their anthem. By the time the dust settled, the song hadn't just defined mid-90s alternative rock, it walked away with a Grammy. There is a version of history where we never got to hear Black. Even though it's now considered one of the most heartbreaking masterpieces in rock, Eddie Vedder originally fought to keep it under wraps. To him, the lyrics were so deeply personal and emotionally exposed that he didn't want them turned into a product. When Pearl Jam's label saw the massive success of 10, they begged the band to release Black as a single. But Vedder wouldn't budge. He refused to make a music video and blocked the commercial release, fearing the song's fragile meaning would be lost in the hype. But you can't keep a song that powerful quiet. Even without a video or a marketing push, fans latched onto it so hard it became a radio staple anyway, eventually being voted by readers of Rolling Stone as the greatest song the band ever wrote. Next up is a song that was never meant for the radio. When Rage Against the Machine dropped Killing in the Name in 1992, the gatekeepers tried to bury it. Because of its raw political message and the fact that the ending repeats a certain four-letter word 17 times, most US radio stations banned it immediately. Even MTV refused to show the music video unless it was heavily censored.
Killing in the name of
But you can't kill a song this powerful. Fast forward 17 years to 2009, and the track pulled off the ultimate comeback. A massive fan campaign in the UK used the song to protest against reality TV singing competitions. Against all odds, this nearly two-decade-old protest anthem beat out the X Factor winner to become the official Christmas #1. It proved that no matter how much the industry tries to censor a song, the fans always have the final say. Next up is a song that turned Green Day into superstars, but it almost cost them their identity. When the band signed to a major label to release Basket Case, their local punk scene in California didn't just turn their backs, they officially banned them. To the underground fans, signing a big contract meant selling out, and the band was literally laughed out of the clubs where they grew up. Even the critics weren't convinced, calling the song juvenile and bratty. But the joke was on them. Basket Case exploded, spending 5 weeks at the top of the charts and bringing punk rock to the mainstream for a whole new generation. Sometimes breaking the rules of your own scene is exactly what it takes to change the world. When Beck recorded Loser in 1993, he didn't think he was making a hit. He thought he was making a joke. After hearing himself try to rap, he literally told the producer, "I'm the worst rapper in the world. I'm just a loser." He threw that line into the chorus as a self-deprecating prank and moved on. The song was released as a tiny indie single with only 500 copies in existence. But then, the accident happened. A few college radio DJs in California started playing the track, and the phone lines wouldn't stop ringing. Before going viral was even a thing, this throwaway joke song spread like wildfire, triggering a massive bidding war and turning a shy street performer into the face of a generation. Not bad for a guy who thought he couldn't rap. When Alanis Morissette released You Oughta Know in 1995, the industry experts were terrified. They called it too angry and too raw, warning that rock radio would never play something so aggressive from a female artist. But the fans had other ideas. The song exploded, spending 5 weeks at #1 on the modern rock charts, a record for a female artist that stood for nearly 2 decades. It went on to win 2 Grammys, for Best Rock Song and Best Female Rock Vocal Performance, while the album Jagged Little Pill took home the night's biggest prize, Album of the Year. With over 33 million copies sold worldwide and a 17X platinum certification, Alanis didn't just break records. She rewrote the entire rulebook for women in rock. After Nirvana ended, Dave famously recorded the first Foo Fighters album entirely by himself. But by the time they got to the second record, he was at rock bottom, going through a divorce and literally homeless, sleeping in a sleeping bag on a friend's floor. The band had actually finished their new album, but Dave wasn't happy with the sound, so they decided to scrap the whole thing and start over. It was during that desperate do-over session that Everlong was born. Interestingly, it wasn't an instant chart topper. It actually peaked at #3 on the alternative charts and missed the Hot 100 entirely. But thanks to a surreal, award-nominated music video and the vocal support of fans like David Letterman, it became a slow-burn masterpiece. Today, it's not just a fan favorite. It's consistently ranked by Rolling Stone and Kerrang! As one of the greatest rock anthems ever recorded. If the 1990s had a Public Enemy #1, it was Marilyn Manson. When The Beautiful People dropped in 1996, it didn't just release, it detonated. The track triggered a wave of moral outrage that reached all the way to the U.S. Senate. Parent groups demanded nationwide bans, and protesters picketed nearly every venue the band played. Because of its abrasive sound and the Antichrist superstar persona, dozens of radio stations refused to play it. fearing it was too dangerous for the airwaves.
Yeah, what do you say? Something beautiful, something bright.
But the attempt to bury the song only made it more iconic. While it never actually hit the #1 spot on the charts, it became the most watched video on MTV and a permanent anthem for anyone who felt like an outsider. So there you have it, 10 songs that the industry tried to kill, and a generation of fans who refused to let them die. If there's a song you think deserved a spot on this list, I want to hear it. I'll see you in the next one.